All right, Bobby, I'm going to start with a question. If I had told you back in 1994, when you first saw Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, that some 30 odd years later, the two of us would have a podcast to talk about this movie, and we would do it with someone that we had met for the first time 10 minutes ago, you probably would have said I was crazy, but that is exactly what we are doing this morning, Bobby.
I would have believed we're doing a podcast, although we didn't know a podcast exists, because as soon as you saw this movie for the first time, you knew it was something different. We're going to talk about Jim Carrey a ton. I think he's a one of one. I spent a lot of time thinking about, is there another Jim Carrey out there? So that's what makes this movie special. And yes, you see on the screen 630. So I think we got to we'll call him Rizz or 630. I met Rizz or 630 via text chain. Jax Pelfrey, who just did the Armageddon podcast, and his dad, they have this text string that they started, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago that puts together football games where you make picks. It's called The Board. Okay. So it's like, hey, here are the games, pick them. We'll keep track. Every text thread, every guy's do this. The problem with The Board is that every week there's about 55 games. So I get included to the board. Mark, I'm not lying. It's 30 games. I get added to the board last year. And at about week 3, I'm like, I can't do it. You got to copy and paste. You got to look back and forth. They didn't like that I came in and said, hey, you got to change this. They haven't changed it. It's still 50 games. But you know what we got, Mark? We got about 6 or 7 new podcast listeners. So I'd say it's a win. It's a good sacrifice. Rizz, 630 in the great city of Chicago. How are we doing, my man?
I'm good. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Loves Ace Ventura. Said this is just out of the shadows. He's like, I could do Ace Ventura, and I was like, you're in.
Well, let's start right there, Rizz. Why do you love Ace Ventura, Pet Detective so much?
I mean, it's just the quintessential 90s Carrey comedy. I mean, I grew up with 2 older brothers, 4 and 6 years older than me. So I was born in 95. So I was born after this movie was made. But, this was one of the few movies that I grew up watching nonstop. So it was the Ace Ventura movies. It was the 90s and early 2000s Adam Sandler movies. That was the heyday for me. And I think this is just, the best Carrey comedy of all time. I'm throwing it out there. It's, for me, the most quotable. Still quoted to this day, and it's just great.
The quintessential 90s comedy movie, an hour and a half, just stupid line after stupid line, and I mean that affectionately. Just a great 90s comedy.
It is. I think you guys have both nailed it. February of 1994, 30 years ago, have passed. It still holds up a ton. I think we'll cover a lot of that when we get to that category. But you mentioned this is Jim Carrey's breakout. We'll spend a little time going through his filmography, but this is the first real one, and it hits. And if you were to watch it, it's hard to believe it did hit, right? It's so weird. It's so corny. He acts very strange, but he hits and becomes a really big star for about 20 some odd years. Even a little bit to this day is very recognizable, but it's kind of off of the mainstream. Bobby, it's directed by a guy named Tom Shadyac. Do you know what Tom Shadyac also directed? Your wife will really enjoy his work. Patch Adams. That's 2 consecutive pods. I have mentioned Patch Adams. So also joining Jim Carrey, you got Sean Young, Courtney Cox, and Tone Loc. $107 million at the box office, which is shocking when you watch it. Number 24 that year. Number 1 in 1994, Bobby, The Lion King. But the movie year of 1994, which is really good, is dominated by the triumvirate of Forrest Gump, The Shawshank Redemption, and Pulp Fiction. All 3, which we have covered on this pod. I think going into that, we probably thought Shawshank was the best. I think we kind of came out of it thinking Gump was the best after rewatching them all. 630. Let's start right here. It's controversial that Forrest Gump won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 1994. I think retroactively, a lot of people go with Shawshank or Pulp Fiction. Where do you come down on those 3 movies? What is your favorite of those?
Ooh. I think it depends on what day it is. If it's a Sunday rainy day, I want to watch Shawshank. If it's I'm just kind of sitting at home during the week, I might want to throw a curveball and watch some Pulp Fiction. hear Sam Jackson start rambling off. But Forrest Gump's a classic. I think I'd probably overall land on Shawshank, though.
Yeah. Bobby, you still with the Gump after we did them all? I mean, it's kind of like Gump was the last one we did. You can kind of be prisoner of the moment. Where do you come down?
Well, as we're sitting here with a bunch of guys, you're supposed to say Shawshank, right? That's kind of what you're pressured into saying, that Shawshank is better. But we've done both of the podcasts. They're both awesome. But I remember leaving Forrest Gump saying, that was incredible. Shawshank was awesome. Forrest Gump is incredible. And even as I said, I'm like, am I right there? Is that not? Yeah. So, but I think I would go with Forrest Gump. Crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, I think if the years have passed, Forrest Gump has taken more grief than the other ones. The other ones have kind of aged better. But Forrest Gump is really good when you go back and watch it in totality. This movie, since we just did a sequel pod a couple pods ago, Bobby, this one had a sequel, Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. Bob, where do you come down? Do you like the OG Pet Detective or When Nature Calls better?
Well, the OG is much better than When Nature Calls. But as I've said several times in this podcast, maybe the hardest I've laughed ever in a movie theater was when Jim Carrey comes out of the butt of that rhinoceros in Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. It's still to this day, I'll just YouTube it and just laugh uncontrollably. So, but yes, this one is much better than When Nature Calls, because you had never seen anything like it. Jim Carrey said his inspiration for Ace Ventura, which makes spot on sense, was a really smart bird. So think about that. The way he dressed in, these bright colors, the way he kind of pecks around, he's kind of moving around, a very smart bird. And that is spot on. That's exactly what he was in this movie.
That's a good call. Rizz, are you the OG guy or the sequel? What's your favorite of these two?
Yeah, I think When Nature Calls has some phenomenal scenes that are just amazing in general, but the OG is better. I was kind of surprised When Nature Calls didn't get a shout out in your sequel podcast, along with that I add. But Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, I mean, the rhino scene when he punches the Monopoly guy and throws him back, when he's in the film room biting the guy's thing off and to the projector. A lot of great scenes, but overall, Pet Detective, I think, takes it no problem.
Yeah, more like this, Mark. This is really, really telling. So when I was on another movie I had to pay for, Rizz, send us your receipt. I know you had to pay for it too, unless you got the VHS, which you still might from your brothers. Listen to these. Also watch, and this is not how it always goes. Mask, Dumb and Dumber, Bruce Almighty, Liar Liar, Me, Myself, and Irene, Cable Guy, and Yes Man. Now you're like, well, yeah, of course, Bob. Those are all Jim Carrey movies, but we do comedies, we do Leo movies, and it's not all Leo movies. It is just very telling. He's a one of one. What other movie would you say, hey, this is like Ace Ventura? None. I'm going to get into that in Hall of Fame plaques of one of one actors. There's a couple others I'm thinking of, but very, very telling that you really can't find anything close to this guy. Just all the small mannerisms, all the little tiny. This is very, very similar to these 90s comedies. At the end, when he's going to Marino, he's in that marina, he jumps off the boat on that little raft and goes a foot to the ladder. I'm such a child. I think that's hilarious. I think things like that are so hilarious. Things that don't need to be done that are done. He was the only foreign film. He was the London Movie Critics Newcomer of the Year. Nominated for a couple Golden Schmoes, couple Razzies. Those people don't have, the type of humor that we want. So how about this, Mark? And you probably got this in your stats. He goes from In Living Color, and in 1994, Ace Ventura is his first movie ever. Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask. Then the next year goes to Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, Batman Forever. And then he gets $20 million for The Cable Guy. The first $20 million actor of our time was Jim Carrey, not the serious Jim Carrey. The Dumb and Dumber Jim Carrey gets $20 million, first actor ever. Did you see that, Mark? Were you shocked?
No, but it's funny that you would ask me if I had looked at his filmography. Of course I looked at his filmography. I had a whole segment on his filmography, but thank you for taking us through that. I did not realize he was the first $20 million guy. And Cable Guy, it's right in that great run all the way up until Truman Show. And then he tries to get a little too serious, I think. Right.
Mark,
I mean,
you can go through his filmography. It's okay. We're a professional podcast. You can I didn't steal your thunder. Go ahead.
No. I was just saying, and when he does Eternal Sunshine in 2004, I feel like that kind of ends it for him, right? He was a great physical comedy actor, right? And then I feel like he tries to make the serious turn. Truman was a good serious turn, because it was dramatic, but it was still sort of funny, and he was still sort of being Jim Carrey. He kind of does that. The really only other movie I liked after Eternal was Yes Man, which is all the way back in 2008, and there's really not much since then. Rizz, where do you come down on Jim Carrey's career? He's sort of disappeared. Now, you see this from time to time when Bob and I will go through this, and these guys, either they just get bored, probably they just get too much money. It's probably a lot of work being Jim Carrey on screen and being that funny, but he's just sort of disappeared for an actor that was with us for like 20 years.
Yeah, I think after Bruce Almighty, it was just kind of done. I mean, you had like those movies you listed off in a row in the 90s for him, and then that was kind of it. I mean, it was kind of Adam Sandler's time to take over in the early 2000s, late 90s, and then Carrey left, and it seemed like it was just all Sandler's time.
Listen, it's just you get a lot of money. There's one person that, when they got a lot of, well, there's actually two. Well, three now that I think about it. There's three guys in the history of the world that money hadn't changed them in with drive. Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, and that they're probably clinically insane. And my man, Elon Musk. Elon Musk, richest man in the world, and he doesn't care. He just keeps going. He's catching boosters with chopsticks. Did you see that video? This guy, Elon Musk, is the absolute best. Rizz has his American shirt on, so I know he agrees with me. Money ruins everybody except Elon Musk. That's why I'm voting for him as a write-in president in 2024.
Nice job. Yeah, the Jim Carrey career. Well, Rizz, you weren't alive. But Bob, I know you remember In Living Color, 1990 to 1994. And still, when we do Hall of Fame plaque, Fire Marshal Bill is going to get a mention. There's a lot of Fire Marshal Bill in Ace Ventura, don't you think? I mean, it's right there, and it's a very similar character. A lot of his characters from In Living Color, I think, sort of pop in to Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. But Bob, were you a big In Living Color guy?
Oh yeah, of course. It's really early where we're talking. Well, not really early. We're all grown men. We wake up early, but we're doing this early before we get to work here. So I don't know if I'm ready to do any Fire Marshal Bill. I'm ready to do one impersonation when we get going. But yes, him in Living Color was something you've never seen before. The way he talks to Tone Loc, well, we'll get to that in quotes. That's directly from In Living Color. So yeah, it was awesome.
All right, well, let's jump into it, guys. We're going to go through scenes and quotes. Finally, Bob, we got a movie with a lot of quotes, but let's start with scenes, Rizz, and I'm going to come to you. What is your favorite scene? There's a lot of little like skits that Jim Carrey goes through in this movie, but if you had to narrow it down to your favorite from Ace Ventura, what would you go with?
Well, I sent you guys a text. Like I said, I didn't know that it was a deleted scene for the longest time until within the last month. But when he goes to see his guy to find the exotic mammal animal owner in Miami, try and find Snowflake, and he goes to the club and he goes to the concert with a metal band. Are you familiar with the band that's playing there? It is a band.
I am not.
It is a band called Cannibal Corpse. And it is one of Jim Carrey's, he loves this band. And he tried to get them to film that scene when they were about to go on tour. And the band was like, hey guys, we would love to. We already have this tour booked for Europe. We're just not the type of people that are going to cancel a tour for a scene. Sorry, it's just not going to work out. Jim Carrey helped the movie set hold off on shooting that scene just so that band could play because he liked them so much. And in the deleted scene, the two goons that kidnapped Marino find Ace Ventura there, try and chase him. Ace Ventura gets on stage, crowd surfs, gets back on stage, and then just takes his shirt off and starts going nuts.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch that entire scene?
I did watch the clip you said. I've never seen it until you sent it to me. I didn't even know that scene existed, but it was very, very good. I didn't include it in scenes because I just watched it on the YouTube clip that you sent me.
Yeah, I mean, it just like goes back to the living color stuff. I mean, just the dance moves he's doing. He's moving around like this, all that stuff, and he jumps down the ground, starts hopping up. It's just like how I got kind of thought about how comedy was in movies. Like that's what you do. You just get insane. You do anything and everything.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Bob, where would you go?
Captain's log. Stardate 22.9 to the rounded off to the nearest decimal point. We've traveled back in time to save an ancient species from total annihilation. So far, no signs of aquatic life, but I'm going to find them. If I have to tear this universe another black hole, I'm going to find it. I've got to, mister.
When he gets into that tank and starts his pet detecting is good. And then it's followed up with one of the quotes. I'm not going to give away the quote that we use that comes right after that, but that is Ace Ventura in a nutshell. And I love that scene. But probably my favorite scene is from the point where he's going to dress up in the tutu. Courtney Cox brings him to the doctor to act like he's insane. He's in the tutu. He does the slow-mo. I mean, how many times in with your buddies are you doing, and then he goes reverse, he goes reverse, and then they go out as they're walking through the park, and he's just like blue 42, jumping over this. And then what rivals the rhino scene in Ace Ventura 2 is he's like, halftime, he gets a drink, kneels down, and just slams his head on that bench. That is a YouTubeable scene from the time he shows up in the tutu to the time he slams his head on there. That's probably my favorite scene.
Yeah, the whole Shady Acres thing, to your point, Bob, the institution there is really funny. The slow-mo instant replay is some of the finest acting you'll ever see on screen. It's incredible how he does it. I'd love to know how many takes that took. The whole couple honorable mentions in there. I do think the Shady Acres thing is probably the funniest. When he's yelling in that balcony, no, no, when he's trying to prove that the guy did not commit suicide by jumping off of that building, leading into the Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is Finkel is probably the most iconic. But just the simplest thing of in the beginning of the movie where he's driving that car with his head out the window with the dog is just incredible stuff, Bobby. Any other ones that you just want to call out?
It's the bet. This is 1994. I was a junior in high school. I can't tell you how many times we're in high school driving to whatever practice or school, and both of our heads, me and Bobby LaCitra, both of our heads are out the window. I mean, you had to do that after watching this movie. You had to do that. No, the dinner party where he goes in and tries to find Snowflake, and he comes out soaking wet, and he gives another quote, which we'll wait for the quote draft here, is very, very good. But it's, man, this is 90s comedy to a T. I so enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, his facial expressions throughout the movie are just unbelievable. Not a lot of. He's another guy with no vertebrae. He can just kind of move around. His face does all sorts of.
Just like my daughter, just no bones in her body.
Lots of contortions. All right, a lot of these scenes give away a lot of quotes, so let's just get right into it. Now, finally, we've got one with a lot. So Bob proposed a draft, which I think is a good way of doing it. We'll each give you guys 2 picks. I'll throw in some, and if any are left on the cutting room floor, we can talk about it. But Rizz, we're going to come to you first. Do you have a favorite quote, a memorable quote, one that you use to this day?
100%. And Bob almost gave it away when he comes out of the bathroom soaking wet. Anytime me, one of my brothers, one of my cousins comes out of the bathroom, we're at the other person's house, do not go in there. Woo!
Good job, Rizz. I was going to say, if you don't do it, if we're going to do these quotes, you've got to do it in the voice, and you crushed it. Your woo was incredible. Very good.
And then the way, just the sound when he has all the water in his pocket and just the...
Yeah,
it's so good. So if we're going to go down that line of what is the quote you most use, it's like a glove. I mean, you hit, I'm going to play golf, and I'm going to, hopefully hit a little wedge close, and it's going to be under my breath, like a glove. Anytime you parallel park, parallel parking is become easier with cameras, but every time, I get very excited when I parallel park correctly. It doesn't happen often. But as soon as you get it in there and you put that sucker in park, it's like a glove. I mean, every single time.
You guys are nailing it. What's funny is there's still some just really remarkable ones. So Rizz, You got another choice. What's second for you?
Another choice. Whew. I think Bob is dying to do the Tone Loc scene with the.
You can do it. I'm gonna do another one from Snowflake's cage. Go ahead.
Well, the other one I was gonna do is after he finds out that Einhorn is Finkel. He found Captain Winky.
Yeah. So me and LaCitra, he'll come up because this is right in the heyday where we're spending every minute of every day together, and it's. I don't know how this could. Hey, I can't open the door. I can't do it. It says, I just can't do it, Captain. I don't have the power. LaCitra he'll get a kick out of that one.
Yeah, those are legendary. Lahu Zahir.
Yep.
I mean, obviously lives on. And then Bob, you got to get it all righty then. I feel like I've heard you say that 1,000 times.
Righty then. I got to package people. You're bouncing through people. I got to package people. That comes out all the time. Rizz mentioned the one with Tone Loc. Excuse me, can I ask you a few questions? He's making a mouth with his butt. And what's great about that scene too, it goes on too long. Like if he just did, and then he just keeps talking to him, and Tone Loc is just like, what are you doing? And then if I'm not back in 5 minutes, just wait longer.
And then look, we're in football season. I still think to this day, sometimes when a field goal is missed and you're with some buddies, you just scream laces out.
Laces out. No doubt. That
Did this movie invent laces out as a thing that a kicker was fearful of?
Well, no, because I watched several YouTube videos, more to come in Bob's Big Questions. I watch a lot of YouTube videos on Does That Matter? And shockingly, it obviously does. I watched like a physics lesson of the laces out. So I think we'll talk about that.
It's true. So Ace Ventura has definitely got some stuff that is true. All right. It's been 30 years. It's been the entirety of 630's life, I guess, here. So we'll start with you, 630. What holds up after 30 years from Ace Ventura?
Well, tying in with the laces out, people getting mad at NFL kickers for missing kicks.
Incredible. Correct. I mean, I don't know if that's a good holds up, but it is holding up. There's no doubt about it.
I mean, I'm in the Chicago area, so obviously a huge Bears fan.
The double doink?
Doink. The double doink. It wasn't a straight laces out, but I mean, I think there was maybe one more year. I think Cody Parkey after that went to the Eagles, but then after that, he's gone.
Yeah.
One kick.
Done. Anything else, Rizz, that holds up?
I think people getting fooled by dudes that look like ladies. I think that is still...
Sadly, that is holding up.
It's holding up to a higher standard. Yeah, agreed. Along those same lines, Rizz, if you're done, guys not wanting to kiss dudes, that holds up. I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's 2024, but I don't want to kiss dudes. I don't want to kiss a dude. Having a bathroom in your office. Finkel goes into the office and he's going to use the bathroom and Ace says one or two, number one or number two. I just want to know how much time I got. But having a bathroom in your office, Rizz, you got a bathroom in your office where you can just walk right to it and not bother anybody?
This isn't even my office I'm in right now. I don't have an office. So we got like floor, and this is just one of the random offices upstairs.
I love the fact that Rizz is actually at his office with somebody who works with him, walks in, he's going to see him doing some dumb podcast with two morons from Atlanta. I love that. Unfortunately, this holds up. Parents being oblivious to their kids being absolute psychopaths. I mean, Ray Finkel's room is completely plastered with kill Dan Marino this, and the parents are just totally oblivious to it. Don't see anything wrong with it. Being yourself and chicks loving it. If I could pass one thing on to my son, it's just be yourself. And if the girl doesn't like you, you just move on. Just be yourself. Ace Ventura is clinically insane, not that great looking, and just the weirdest guy you've ever seen. And every woman in the movie just wants to jump his bones, which I kind of like. Along those lines, just gratuitous cleavage, boob shots. I totally forgot the scene where he brings, the dog back to the woman and he's like, are you going to pay me? She's like, would you like me to help take your pants off? And you're just everything hanging out. Courtney Cox with a see-through blouse. One, I didn't realize all the kind of sly, gratuitous sex scenes in this movie. And then Roger Podacter being murdered in the middle of the movie, a little dark. I totally forgot. They just chucked a guy off the window. The dog bite prank, still, I could do it to my kids 3 times a day, every day for the rest of their lives. They fall for it every time. Oh man, I got bit by a dog back here. They go to touch it. That's pretty good. And then here's something that holds up and stuff we take for granted. I push the button. I don't even have a key anymore. No, none of us probably have keys in our cars anymore. But isn't it great? That every time you push that button or turn that key, the car starts. Ace gets in trouble because the car won't start. And we've all had old cars in the beginning of our driving lives where you're like hoping that bad boy starts. But man, I love the fact that when I go down there this morning and I press that button, it's going to start. What a country. What a country.
You guys have nailed a ton of them. I'll just start off with the first thing, an hour and a half.
So
the runtime is perfect. This was the peak of comedy, right? These 90, early 2000s, where if it was more than 90 minutes, it was shocking. Now we're 2.5 hours, with these comedies, which is just too much. Physical comedy. The Mission Impossible theme, just throw that into every movie with a guy sneaking around. It leads into a very funny scene where he gets down there and camps his basement. He's just got a great white shark just kind of hanging around, which I thought was really good. How about Dan Marino? The guy still kind of looks like he did in '94. I mean, whatever that guy is working. Maybe it was Isotoner Gloves, which was an actual commercial back in the day, and that appeared there. Very nice. All right, I hate to do it to Ace, but these comedies often lead to questions. There's a ton of them. They really could have used Podcast Movie Consulting Group on just the dates and games and things like that. So it depends how deep you want to go here, Rizz. But what questions do you have from the plot or anything that Jim Carrey was doing?
So I watched this a couple times, and I still couldn't really tell. But when they kidnapped Snowflake and had Snowflake in the marina, where was the enclosure? Like, they're in a marina. There's boats that have to go in and out. Could Snowflake not just swim away?
Dumbest dolphin ever in a movie?
Like, I didn't get it. I was just like, wait a minute. Let me look back at this. Like, is there just water there?
No. You're right. Rizz, yeah, I'm buying what you're selling. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, that was the major question I had.
I got a question for you, Mark. Rizz, if you're done. They just shoot Courtney Cox and Ace Ventura immediately in that last scene, right? Courtney Cox comes with a gun to a cop's head. Don't they just blow her brains out? And then Ace Ventura keeps trying to prove that their boss is something, and he keeps getting not proven. I think they just lay them both down. And they it is what it is. Obviously, we find out that Mr. Winky is hanging out in the back, but I think they just shoot him. I always wonder this with stunt people. So I think, if you're on the set of Dune or Mission Impossible or John Wick, a stunt person's got some pride. Like, this is worth it. This is part of the story. This is it. Well, in the beginning of the movie, a guy just gets run over by a car. Like, is that worth it for Ace Ventura? Like, if the stunt guy is like, hey, we're going to have you get nailed by a car and you got to roll over the hood, isn't the stunt guy like, do we really have to do this? Is this really worth it, for this movie? So the biggest question. So Finkel misses the kick. Okay. And you're telling me in 8 years, because that's what it is. It's 8 years. He goes back to his parents' house, starts to go insane, gets put into a mental hospital, gets out of the mental hospital, he has to have some plastic surgery. He didn't have a sex change. Well, he had breasts put on. He gets a job as a cop and then rises to lieutenant in 8 years. Like,
good work.
Yeah. Mark, I see you shaking your head. You were on that, correct?
Yeah, it was a great job by him. And not to mention the fact Lois Einhorn's family, they didn't have any questions that someone was just named Lois Einhorn.
Well, but it's pre-internet. I don't know. Probably nobody cares. Why are there not more pros from Collier County? Now, this movie says the first and only pro from Collier County, Ray Finkel. So obviously I had to go in there. I know Ray Finkel's not real, Rizz. I know this isn't a true story. So I tried to come up with who is the best athlete ever from Collier County. Mark, you are famously consider Collier County your home. Not a lot at all, but what do you think I found as the best athlete from Collier County?
Edgerrin James?
Edgerrin James. It's really it. It's very, very strange. Now you get North Fort Myers, but that's not Collier County. You get South Fort Myers, Sammy Watkins. Why don't we have more pro athletes from Collier County? Is it because of the soft nature of the individuals that grow up in Collier County?
I don't know about that. I mean, where Edge was from was not very soft.
No, I agree, but aren't you? I would have guessed the list was 10 people long. It was going to be a Hall of Fame plaque of mine of just list and name me the best one, and just Edge is the only one, which is pretty crazy. Finkel or Einhorn just wears the ring around. Like, don't you think people would know, why are you wearing that ring? Kind of silly, especially after she loses the diamond. And here's a big question for you. Maybe it should be part of Bob's. Well, I'm going to save it for Bob's big question. We're all good. All good.
Little teaser there. Yeah, on the ring, why are these guys wearing an AFC championship ring? More importantly, why is Don Shula wearing one? Shula won 2 Super Bowls. He's just wearing an AFC championship ring. I tried not to get too deep into the stuff. I mean, the 84 Super Bowl didn't come down to a field goal. The 49ers destroyed the Dolphins. Stetson had no football team. Just kind of weird that they decided to do it. I guess probably just assuming no one would even think of this. And I assume you have a Hall of Fame plaque, Bob, on big sports blunders, but a 26-yard field goal miss to win the Super Bowl, that would be it. I mean, that's an extra point at best back in the old days.
I mean, Mark,
really something there.
Mark, of course I have a Hall of Fame plaque for him.
Well, we'll make something up.
Yeah,
would that be the biggest?
Van de Velde. I'll tell you, Van de Velde is the winner.
Yeah, Van de Velde is the winner. All right, Bob, one final question before we get into some of the awards. It has to do with Man on Fire, obviously, Bobby. Would this movie have been better with John Creasy in it? And if so, what part should he have played?
Yeah, I think he's Woodstock. I think Creasy would be Woodstock. Woodstock is the guy where Rizz says that the deleted scene happens. He's going to try to find Creasy can't play a major part. Creasy can't be Finkel, right? Because that ain't happening, right? There is no female in John Creasy. He can't be Ace Ventura because Ace Ventura is not going to kill a bunch of people. So I think he's Woodstock. He's the guy that just knows everything about every single aquatic animal in the world. But instead of diverting the ships that are looking for those whales, he just like, hey, here's a fleet of ships going to kill some whales, and then they all just like disappear because he just nukes them or something like that. So I think he's Woodstock. I think he'd be good as Woodstock.
He went deep there. Woodstock could have used some bifocals, right? He had the 2 glasses. That was interesting. All right, let's hand out some awards for
Mark,
Ace Ventura.
I got a story on that. Mater, who has joined us for Jurassic Park and Ocean's 11, big fan, super fan of the podcast. He has glasses like I do, and one of the problems, I've got to put contacts in to wear sunglasses. I don't have prescription sunglasses. I should. Mater will just get on the baseball field and he'll just stick his sunglasses over his glasses. I've done it before, but I do it when I'm driving. Maybe I'm a little too vain. I can't do it in front of people, but it's just a great sign of age and self-confidence. Mater's just like, no, I need sunglasses. He just kind of sticks them right on over his glasses.
Oh, Mater, nice job.
Oh, yeah.
There. All right, the Matthew McConaughey Award for the best scene stealer of the movie 630. Who stole it for you?
This was a tough one for me. I'll be honest. I think I need to hear one of you guys go first. I had a tough time figuring this one out.
Well, here's the thing, Rizz, the answers don't matter. You could have said The Great Gatsby, and we'd be like, oh, okay, good. All right, I got you. I think Marino's the scene stealer. Pro athletes as actors can sometimes not pull it off. I thought Marino was pretty good. He was the scene, and it was good to see Dan Marino, to your point, still looks great, man. He looks the same. I think if I saw him right now, he'd look the same, maybe a little more gray hair, but I like Marino in it.
He's a good-looking man. I had Marino, but I wanted to give Don Shula the fact that, I get why Marino was in it. Imagine the conversation they had with Don Shula to get him into this movie.
Just handing that mailbox.
And then whatever they told him, and then Don Shula saw the movie. Do you think he regretted being in the movie after seeing it?
No chance he saw the movie. No chance he saw the movie. He saw the check, made sure the check deposited, and moved on with his life.
Yeah. Dan Marino or Don Shula. Rizz, after hearing our great insight, any thoughts on who would get that award for you, or should we just leave it?
Just leave it, Mark. I could see his brain working. Just leave it. Just leave it.
I mean, he found out after however many times that Einhorn was Finkel. You got to give it to Marino.
Yeah. I think it's Marino. I think it's right. You are awarded 100 points, Rizz. Good job.
Very good. All right. The best parent, worst parent, one of the funner categories that we have, the Mr. Miyagi Award for the best parent in Ace Ventura. Rizz, do you have one here?
Finkel's dad.
As best. Okay, go on. Keep going.
I mean, he knows what's going on. He knows the slander. Someone knocks on their door asking for Ray Finkel. He puts a shotgun in their face. That's best parent.
Now, he knows his son is insane. He's trying to kill Dan Marino, and apparently they have no idea where he's at. And in your book, a big thumbs up on the parenting side.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure. Mark, I know who you're going with, and I'll leave you for the big reveal. But I went with Tone Loc. Tone Loc, one, I love his voice. Can you imagine falling asleep in the arms of Tone Loc? Wait. Oh, Finkel is Einhorn. Wait.
Wow.
But just the slow pace. He's got some money. I mean, he's got two of the most recognizable songs in 90s hip hop history. And he's always looking out. He's kind of giving information. He lets Courtney Cox put a gun to his head just to save Ace. So Tone Loc, best parent.
Nice. Good job, Tone Loc. Bob, I went with a man by the name of Udo Kier. That's Ronald Camp. Do you see that guy's house? Yeah. You know, what was funny is they were getting ready to go into that. I'm thinking, God, I hope this is Mar-a-Lago. I looked it up. It was not. I was dying that they were really going to go to Mar-a-Lago to film this, because they were doing this down there in the Fort Lauderdale area. But Ronald Camp putting on a good spread. He's got a great white shark, a little tank in the bottom of his house. That was a very nice
now,
job by him.
Even though Snowflake is not there, it's not good that he's got a great white. He is trafficking in aquatic. How much money in trafficking aquatic rare animals? How much money is in that? Like, who do you sell that great white shark to?
A guy like Ronald Camp. There's some dudes out there. Those exotic.
That's the final place for that. He didn't traffic it to then sell it. That's his.
Oh no, yeah, art. That's the final resting place for Jaws there.
I got you.
All right, the Darth Vader Award for worst parent. 630. Who do you got?
I got to go with the mom. Finkel's mom. She was as evil as could be, and the dad knows it. But I still think he was still the best parent. But yeah, the mom making footballs, laces out, goes up there, sees everything, and just
oblivious.
Yeah,
oblivious. You know, I hate to do it, Mark, but the worst parent is Ace. He didn't do anything. But one, he's a little promiscuous. I mean, he's just every single girl he meets in this movie. You know, he's dropping trow and trying to get lucky. He seems a little too into his career. I don't want to. There's no way this landlord. So early in the movie, the landlord says you can't have pets in there, and he's like, "Would you like to see it?" There's no way that landlord doesn't step into that apartment and it smelled like absolute nastiness from all these pets in there. So you can't bring a baby in there and have like a cockatoo pecking the baby's eyeballs out. So Ace Ventura. I don't want to be too negative, but I would imagine he's not going to be a great parent.
Well, shame on you, Bob. The worst parent, the very first scene of the movie, which is incredible, where he's walking around with that box and just slinging it around. How about when he flips it over his body with his legs? I mean, some great athletic performance by Ace Ventura, but the guy who in the credits is known as Gruff Man, this big giant of a human, is the worst parent. That's Randall Tex Cobb. Did you know that Randall Tex Cobb fought Larry Holmes for the World Heavyweight Championship belt? This guy, he was also a black belt in karate, beat Leon Spinks at one point in a fight.
This can't be true. You must
It is true.
You must have looked up, you looked up the wrong guy. There's no chance.
Randall Tex Cobb, known only as Gruff Man. That was his title in the movie. Worst parent.
I just looked it up. Randall Tex Cobbs fought Leon Spinks, not Cobb. Cobbs. That's pretty good pull, Mark. Very, very nice job. Very nice job.
All right, the eBay
How is
award.
that guy not the scene stealer then for you? I mean, that's incredible what you just said.
Yeah, I had him there, but just Don Shula being in the movie just kind of floored me. I guess it'd be like Saban showing up in Ace Ventura.
You mean
like
the
Saban
eBay
award
up in an insurance commercial with Deion Sanders, similar to that?
Similar, but different.
But totally different.
Now, Snowflake is ineligible. I typically try to make something from the movie ineligible that you can't have. Little Snowflake, we don't want PETA coming after us. But Rizz, if you saw something on eBay from this movie, what would you want it to be?
It's got to be Ace Ventura's tutu. I think that it would be undefeated.
Be pretty good. It would be hard to identify though, meaning, Rizz told us he hasn't listened to all the podcasts. He's listened to them sporadically. So he's not that, Mark, have we jumped the shark inviting a guy that we just met, didn't know his name and put him on here? Have we jumped the shark in the podcast? Or are we still good?
I think we're okay.
Okay. I think we're okay. We like to have something, Rizz, where if it was sitting on your mantle, you wouldn't know immediately, but like the right person would be like, oh, that's the scorecard from Bushwood. So the tutu, I like the tutu. It's part of my favorite scene. My immediate go-to was the ring with the missing diamond. If you had it in like a little glass case and it was that AFC championship ring with a missing diamond, that'd be kind of cool. But then I went with, what if you had like it's called HDS, not UPS. He was not working for UPS in the beginning. If you had an HDS fragile package with just a bunch of broken glass in it, I think I'm stretching a little bit here, but that would be kind of funny to have that broken glass HDS package.
If you're holding it wearing a Home Mart shirt, I would definitely know you would be going for that. I went with the 72 Chevy Monte Carlo. Now the front windshield would all have to be cracked in.
That's not eligible.
Oh, I make the rules. Snowflake was ineligible. You have to drive it, sticking your head out the window, and you immediately.
I want to change my answers. I want the Miami Dolphins. If the Miami Dolphins came up on eBay, is what I would want.
A fledgling NFL franchise, you can have it.
Well, I just want him for the head coach so we can move him on up to Gainesville, get Mike McDaniel up to Gainesville here.
Can I get the the stuffed dog that Ace Ventura puts in Gruff's Man's with the sign that says you. That's
now Rizz, now we're cooking. Now you're getting it. Now you're waking up. That coffee's kicking in. Good job.
You've been had by Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. That is really good. All right, Bobby, one just for you, probably my favorite. Some bad decisions were made in this movie, no doubt, but what gets the Terrence Howard Award for the worst decision in Ace Ventura?
Well, the worst decision is every male in the movie is making out with Einhorn. Now, it's not a bad decision because she was a man, because there's no way you would have known she's a man. And in real life, she's not a man. I think that was a prosthetic wiener in the back. So that was a real woman. But what I forgot about this movie is that when the reveal comes with Mr. Winky comes, every single man in the entire movie starts spitting out because they've made out with her. I mean, even Guam, like everybody made out with their boss. At some point, you've got to have some discernment, and good for them. They done got because she was a man, baby. And so that's the Terrence Howard worst decision. Yeah,
definitely. Clearly no one got very far, right? Because it never, other than Podacter. I guess Podacter may have gotten to third base there, and that's what happened.
He got chucked out of a window. Mark, did it surprise you when you're watching the movie and you're like, oh yeah, this guy just got dumped on his head?
Yeah, there's always some things in these movies where you go back and why was there a murder in Ace Ventura Pet Detective? Exactly. Poor Podacter.
I think the story moves on if he just got like thumped in the head. We don't have to throw him out of a 15-story window.
Yeah, I guess they really badly wanted that scene with him opening and closing the door and screaming. I guess they couldn't figure out how to work that in. All right, Bobby, time for Bob's big question. Now, 630, get ready, but please remember the answers do not matter.
630, you do not have to look up at the sky and go, that's a tough one. None of them are tough. Just say whatever comes to mind. So, 6-0, you got any kids?
No.
Okay, so well, and Mark has girls, so I've got a son. So we throw the football a lot, just kind of in the backyard. And every time we're running routes and I'm the quarterback, every single time, the first thing I say is blue 42. So, Mark, what is your blue 42? If I throw you a football right now and I say, hey, I'm going to run a post and you get under center, every dude says something. What's your blue 42?
Red 8. Red 8.
Rizz, what's your blue 42?
Blue 40. I'm just thinking of the Peyton Manning SNL skit where he's chucking footballs at kids' backs. That's like all I'm thinking.
Yeah, well, get a son, and you'll have to, I'm telling you, something will come in your mind. Blue 42 is what I say. So red 8, Mark. I throw you a football, it's red 8. Red 8.
Red
Good.
8.
Good.
Omaha.
Yeah, Omaha. Mark, do you think, okay, so this happens. And let's say it's Mahomes v. Jalen Hurts in, it's whatever. It's the Chiefs, Eagles in the Super Bowl. Shout out to Foreman. And Patrick Mahomes, a week before the Super Bowl, gets kidnapped. Nobody knows that. Do they play the game? What do they do?
Wow. Unbelievable question. I think the game goes on, right? I just think they're playing the game.
I think it does. There's no way. And here we are. Joe Buck's like, the Kansas City Chiefs, usually led by Patrick Mahomes. He's been kidnapped. Nobody knows where he is. He might be dead. Oh, and by the way, Jalen Hurts, from a story from Alabama. What a great story. You think the game just goes on?
I think so. The game must go on.
Rizz, does the game go on?
I think if Mahomes got kidnapped, it doesn't. If somehow the Saints made the Super Bowl and Derek Carr got kidnapped.
That's probably the better answer.
So there's a hierarchy. Okay, what's the lowest quarterback? Okay, Mahomes canceled. Josh Allen canceled. Lamar canceled. Burrow canceled. Jalen Hurts?
I think like Hurts and Dak Prescott are on that same line.
So Dak gets kidnapped. Game goes on. Lamar Jackson, no game.
100%.
Okay,
100%.
and then obviously Caleb Williams, the whole league shuts down. We go on a manhunt for Caleb Williams.
Yeah, then we riot.
Mark, I've got an unbelievable. This changed everything for me. So I went down this road of laces out. There's really no Bob's big question. It does matter. The laces matter. The laces matter if they're aimed to the right, aim to the left. Now it's slight, but it matters. Like these kickers, I don't know if you know this. There's an optimal angle that goes out to not get blocked, but then get distance. So it's like anything in sports. We think they just get up there and kick it. Unbelievable amount of science goes into this, right? So the laces matter. Scott Norwood, okay? Super Bowl 25, Giants, Bills. This is the wide right game. Did you know in Scott Norwood's career, okay, up to that point, what was his conversion average of field goals over 40 yards? This was a 47-yarder on natural grass.
Well, if you're asking the question, it was probably 98%.
20%. He was 1 for 5 in his entire career on 40-plus yards. So Scott Norwood's not the heel. Marv Levy's the heel. What are you doing? He's not going to make this field goal. Is that surprising to you, Mark, he was 1 for 5?
Shocking. You wouldn't be in the league at 20%. These guys make 60-yarders at 9 out of 10 clip at this point.
I couldn't believe when I read that. But again, Rizz, that may or may not be true. I have no idea where I read it, so it may or may not be true. All right, Rizz. NFL kickers. You've got the hardest job in sports and the easiest job in sports. Is being an NFL kicker closer to the hardest job in sports or closer to the easiest job in sports?
I'd say closer to easiest. And just because I'm thinking about jobs in sports, you got a tea time in a little bit here. Being a professional golfer in general is tough. Breaking 80 for a non-professional golfer is extremely difficult. Being a relief pitcher in baseball, really tough. So I would say it's closer to easiest. I mean, think of other jobs in football. I mean, the quarterback, I would say, is tougher than a kicker. I would say the
I would
number
agree.
one back covering a number one wide receiver that's probably 4 to 5 inches taller and bigger and stronger than you is tougher. So I'd say closer to easiest.
Mark, do you agree with 630 Rizzolopoulos?
It's a tough question, like on difficulty. I think it's the most pressure packed. I mean, I think it's, look, you mentioned Scott Norwood. Can you name any other Bills other than the one like Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas, the Hall of Famers? But
Don
you're
Beebe?
known.
Is that who you're talking about?
Yeah.
Don Beebe?
Exactly. I think that's got the most pressure on it because, in general, the game's coming down to a kick by you, whether or not you can make it or not. You're the hero. You're the GOAT. Cody Parkey, I think, came up earlier in the pod. So it's definitely a lot of pressure on him.
Yeah, I thought it was a good question. Good job by me. Mark, Tone Loc's best song. There's really only two. Do you need me to name them?
No, it's I think and I had a Hall of Fame plaque on him, but I think Funky Cole Medina, his best song. You agree?
Rizz, do you agree? It's that or Wild Thing?
I'd say Funky Cole Medina, yeah.
Okay, that was easy. I guess we all agree. I think it's Funky. Rizz, have you ever been driving down the road and just locked up your wheels to park like Ace Ventura does? You ever tried that in a parking lot or just in a empty spot? Have you ever locked up your wheels on purpose ever? I'm not positive I have.
Well, I'll give you a history of the 2 cars I've driven in my life.
I love it. I knew this was going to get a good answer. Go ahead.
And then the answer will speak for itself, or the answer will be given. So the first car was a 2001 Volvo S80. And I got that in 2016. And the car that I got in 2019 that I still have is a 2016 Ford Focus. So I hope that answers your question on if I've locked up the wheels. What?
Understood. Don't have to say anything else. Mark had a Volvo early in his driving career. So I don't know if he remembers the type of it. Mark, ever locked up your wheels on purpose to try to park?
Not to park. I mean, I have locked up the wheels to avoid an accident. Yeah, but not to park.
Okay. Last question is the holder of field goals the most underrated pressure packed position in sports? They rarely fumble this thing. They got to spin it. They got to do this. I get very nervous for those guys. What do you think about that position, Mark?
Well, clearly, if the laces mean that much, I guess it's like a mud ball in golf, right? Wherever those laces are kind of pointing, it's going to go in the opposite direction. Yeah, those guys are money. To your point, you rarely see the hold messed up and the ability to spin it. So, I mean, but look, these guys are getting paid probably close to $1 million to do this. They're doing it all week long. The ones that drive me nuts is when it's like the quarterback who's got to go out there. You march them all the way down the field. You're doing all this stuff. You can't even celebrate. Now you got to go hold this thing. It's really critical. It blows my mind when it's the quarterback.
Well, the most famous bumbled hold ever is by who, Mark?
Tony Romo.
Tony Romo. Yeah, he was the back. Yeah, because you just get, oh, we forgot you're the backup. Yeah, you ever think they send him like, all right, Romo, go out there, and somebody's like, are you sure we should have Romo doing this? Then he just like, nobody thinks to train another guy. But yeah, I agree with you. Rizz, you just got shellacked by Mark. Sorry, buddy. Mark, you won that. You won that section. Good job.
Our Chicago guest. You got to treat him with more respect. All right, a couple more. The Rudy Sack Award, given to the most emotional moment of the movie. Keep in mind, humor is an emotion, Rizz, but what do you give the Rudy Sack Award from Ace Ventura?
When Ace Ventura finds out that Einhorn is Finkel and he has to detox his entire body, all of his clothes, puts a plunger that's arguably, I shouldn't even say arguably, it is without a doubt a lot dirtier than a man's mouth.
Good point.
Then he just starts a barrel fire in his bathroom. Where did he get the barrel from? That's another question. Where did he get this barrel to burn all of his clothes? And he just sits in the shower and starts crying. That's the easy answer.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, there's no emotional part, but where I laugh the most is where he called halftime, kneels down, just slams his head on that thing. Now it is a padded bench, but the sound effect makes it sound like it's a wood bench. But yeah, that's the funniest part of the movie.
Yeah, he really drives his head down into there. I'm going to agree with Rizz, the whole Finkel, Einhorn, Finkel. You know what shocked me this go around, when the poodle's kind of there and it puts the hair, I'm not really positive that looks a ton like Einhorn. So it's weird that he kind of came to that. I thought they could have done maybe a little bit better there. But yeah, him delousing himself was incredible. How about when he's chewing that gum when he goes to get Marino?
I love that. I'll do. Another Bob's big question. Have you ever put so much gum? I love blowing bubbles and I'm very good at it. That's one of my special talents. Have you ever put so much gum in your mouth that you've had to take some out of it? You ever done that, Mark? You see,
yeah. I have.
I'll go, when you do the Hubba Bubba, you only do 2. You go 3 and you could kill yourself. But I've tried 3 before.
Yeah, he's got an entire pack of gum in his mouth. Just when
he spits it out, it takes him like 3 seconds to spit it all out.
It's incredible job by Jim Carrey there. All right, does the movie need a different ending? Now this has a little bit of a twist. This is what ChatGPT offered. So you get the ending right where they figure out that it's Einhorn. You rescue Marino. You get him back. Snowflake kicks the halftime field goal. But what it offered up was we don't know who wins that game. Wouldn't it have been fitting if there's a field goal for the Dolphins to beat the Eagles in the Super Bowl? Marino holds it. It's a tough snap. He spins it around, gets the laces out. Kick goes through, and you pan back to Finkel in prison, and he's just kind of angry that happened. So, Rizz, do we need the add-on ending here for Ace Ventura with the climactic game-winning field goal?
I don't think so. I think it ended perfectly. I mean, who would have, it just would have been some random no-name kicker kicking the field goal, winning a Super Bowl, and just added I didn't think it was worth it.
And then you don't get the left-right combo on that eagle. That thing it's an incredible left-right. It's kind of like he just lulls him with the left and really pops him with the right. So I'm with Rizz. No need for a different ending.
All right, we'll leave it as that. All right, moving into Hall of Fame plaques. Bob kind of teed this one up. Let's start with Tone Loc. He's in Ace Ventura. Now, Hall of Fame plaques, Rizz, just to kind of ground everything. Going into the Hall of Fame, snap judgment, what do you think? So it's not the best or the thing that you remember him the most for, but kind of what are they synonymous with?
What is their Hall of Fame plaque go in as? And the Hall of Fame doesn't matter.
So with Tone Loc, you've got him in Ace Ventura. He's also in Heat, which I had forgotten about that. And then the 2 songs, Wild Thing and Funky Cold Medina. I think those are the 3 things that Tone Loc would go in the Hall of Fame for. But 6 Real, what do you got? What do you think of when you think of Tone Loc?
I think of that movie. I think of that movie more than his songs because I don't
know Funky Cold Medina.
Yeah, I don't know any. Did he do anything else other than that movie or those 2 big songs?
No, it'd be interesting to see what's his net worth from 2 songs 40 years ago. It'd be very interesting to see that. But Mark, I think it's Funky Cold Medina. I think Tone Loc, but maybe that's my age. To your point, Rizz wasn't alive when Funky Cold Medina came out. Probably. I don't know when that song came out, but probably not.
Yeah, would agree. I'm going to go with Funky Cold Medina as well. Courtney Cox is clearly a friend, so probably no need to spend a ton of time on her. But how about Sean Young, Finkel and Einhorn? Very memorable performance here. Sean Young was a pretty serious actor until Ace Ventura. She's got a very memorable part in No Way Out with Kevin Costner that I encourage you to go watch. That Blade Runner, which was a smash hit with Harrison Ford. She is in that. Wall Street. I don't know if you remember. She's the ex Mrs. Gecko in Wall Street.
I didn't realize that.
And then this, Finkel and Einhorn and Ace Ventura. So, Rizz, I imagine you're probably going with Ace Ventura, but do you have another thought on Sean Young? What's the Hall of Fame plaque for her?
Yeah, you nailed it. It's Ace Ventura, and it probably just speaks to my age a little bit. I have not seen Blade Runner. I knew that she was in it, but the Ace Ventura is the only movie I've seen her in. So for me, it's Ace Ventura.
Go watch No Way Out. You'd have thought she'd have been the biggest star in Hollywood after that. But Bobby, where are you going?
It would be I would abstain because I wouldn't recognize her if she was in my room right now. So I'm going to abstain. I'm going to say I'm voting her out of the Hall of Fame. That's my vote.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Tough beat. We'll give her Ace Ventura. Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is Finkel. All right, it's time for Jim Carrey. One of the great careers of our lifetime, Bob, a 20-year run. He would be on a short list of guys that just make you laugh when you look at him. I think you did this at some point with Will Ferrell and Chevy Chase and those kind of guys. But this guy was just unbelievable, a comet for about 20 years. But what do you think of when you think of Jim Carrey? Here are some of the options for you, Rizz. Ace Ventura, naturally, his breakout star. I mean, if this doesn't happen, none of the rest of it happens. The dude from The Mask, I mean, it's just unbelievable. Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber. The Grinch is a memorable performance in The Grinch, kind of brought that thing to life. And then Truman from The Truman Show, and I will throw in there Fire Marshal Bill, one of the all-time SNL in living color skit type of characters. But Rizz, where are you going to go with? What do you think of when you think of Jim Carrey?
I think of Ace Ventura, and you nailed it. It was his first breakout movie. It's my favorite Jim Carrey movie. I love watching old clips of In Living Color, though. I mean, when he's the karate instructor telling people that you don't supposed to stab like this. He's trying to free air from a football and shut down the hot dog stand. I mean, that's just him. But when I hear and think of Jim Carrey, it's Ace Ventura. It's the haircut. It's the wacky tropical shirts over a wife beater tank top tucked into his pants, pulled up high. That's classic.
It's incredible. I think of Lloyd of Dumb and Dumber. For all the reasons you said, Rizz, I thought it would be Ace Ventura, but I've spent some time on it's a 2-horse race. It's just Lloyd and it's just Ace Ventura, but I think of Lloyd first.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll give my nod to Ace Ventura, and I think specifically him driving with his head out the window with that hair. That hair was incredible.
It's pretty good.
Rizz, I agree with you on that. All right, Bob, what Hall of Fame plaques do you have?
Best hairstyle in a movie. You got Ace Ventura. I mean, it's he's a smart bird. You got Princess Leia with the buns. You got Uma Thurman in Pulp Fiction with the bangs. You got the Jerry curl from Sexual Chocolate in Coming to America. And then you got Cameron Diaz from There's Something About Mary after she gets that going. Rizz, what's the best hairstyle in movie history?
Yeah, I was queuing up There's Something About Mary, but you took it from me. I mean, it's iconic.
Yeah, it's a Mark. Would you agree with that one?
I'm going Princess Leia. You know, I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
A memorable hairdo.
Okay, one-of-one actors. So I talked before. I don't know if these movies work with anybody else. Like Leonardo DiCaprio is not a one-of-one. Great actor. He's not a one-of-one. I don't think Tom Hanks is a one-of-one. These aren't one-of-ones. And I can only come up with Christopher Walken. Adam Sandler is probably the closest comp to Jim Carrey. Those Adam Sandler movies, I'm not sure. I'm sure if Happy Gilmore's working with somebody else. And then I got Daniel Day-Lewis, who is, hey, he's just that good in these roles. When you think of Daniel Plainview, I don't know who else is doing Daniel Plainview and There Will Be Blood. So one-of-one actors, Jim Carrey, Christopher Walken, Adam Sandler, and DDL. Mark, who do you got? Or is there anybody else I missed? I'm sure I could have missed somebody.
Wow, that's out of those. That's tough. I'll go with Sandler. I feel like he's got just something really unique about him that only works. But Carrey it's pretty close. But yeah, that's a tough one. I'll go Sandler.
Rizz, agree?
Yeah, I'm going to say Sandler. I think Daniel Day-Lewis is just a crazy good actor, but I feel like after seeing Heath Ledger in The Dark Knight, like, there are guys out there that can probably pull it off pretty close to Daniel Day-Lewis did. I think Adam Sandler is just kind of off on his own tangent, like Carrey was.
That's a good point. All right, best pet detective in the country. You got Kat Albrecht out of Washington and Jamie Katz. So obviously I go on here. Is pet detective a thing? It is. It can range from $100 an hour to $1,000 an hour to, I'm sure if Kim Kardashian lost her dog, she would pay anything to get that dog back. But it was amazing. I get on the Google machine and 2 women keep coming up. Best pet detective in the country. Who's better, Mark? Kat Albrecht, she's an old cop who worked on the canine unit, and then Jamie Katz out of Fort Lauderdale, who works more with these bloodhounds that can smell. Who's better?
Man, you really got me here. Jamie Katz. Why not?
I think I agree. I think it's a good call. I think I agree she is. All right, last one, Mark and Rizz. Best movie year for an actor. So we already mentioned this cat does Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber in 1 year. Here are a couple others. Here's probably the best competition. Leonardo DiCaprio in 1 year does Shutter Island and Inception. That's a pretty good year. And then he also does in 1 year Great Gatsby and Wolf of Wall Street. Sandra Bullock did Blindside and The Proposal in 1 year. Jennifer Lawrence in 1 year did Silver Linings Playbook and The Hunger Games. In 1 year, Margot Robbie did Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and Bombshell. In 1 year, Brad Pitt did Ocean's 12 and Troy. And in 1 year, Anne Hathaway did Dark Knight Rises and Les Mis. Mark, best year ever for an actor in 1 year.
The correct answer is Sylvester Stallone, Rocky IV, Rambo First Blood Part 2 in the same year.
Sorry.
But of the options you gave, it'd be Ace Ventura. I mean, those three are really good. I mean, as much as we love Leo, not a big Shutter Island. I mean, Shutter Island's fine. Great Gatsby, kind of lower on the hills. I'll go with Carrey at 94.
How did Google miss John Rambo? You know what, Mark? I'm done. It's been fun. Rizz, best movie year for an actor.
Yeah, if we're going just off of opinion, it's Jim Carrey for me. I think that if you look at box office numbers, you could narrow it down to whoever. But yeah, for me.
That's it, boys. That's all I got for Hall of Fame plaques. You know, every time I think of movies, this will probably be a 45-minute one. Here we are, an hour and 5 minutes into this thing.
Here we go. Speaking of that, the final award, Rizz, it's been a blast having you on. This one is the MVP of the movie, or as I like to kind of call it, who does this movie not work without? This is probably going to be a 3-0 sweep, but do the honors. Who's the MVP from Ace Ventura?
It is Jim Carrey. He is the MVP. I don't know, like going back to the one-on-one conversation, I don't know what other actor pulls that off as good as he did.
Yeah, I would think this is a sweep, but this is our first movie we've ever had that somebody actually had an MVP. Dan Marino was an MVP. But Ace Ventura is the winner.
Yeah, it's hard to even come up with anything witty or funny, or it just, to your point, who else could pull this off? This movie is probably meant to be a disaster, but it launches a great career, made over $100 million at the box office solely on the antics and impersonations of a guy named Jim Carrey, who thankfully came into our lives in 1994 and entertained us for 20 some odd years. All right, this has been a blast. 630, good to meet you. The first time we've ever met somebody on the pod. We're bringing people together, Bob, from all parts of the country. So it has been a good time. Bobby,
Rizz,
any final words?
Yeah, Rizz, here are the rules. Be prepared. You were. Have an opinion. You did. Expand the base. So I know your two brothers, we're going to be watching the data. Your two brothers better listen and watch to this. If they don't, I'm going to take a flight up there to Chicago and rough those guys up. But expand the base, Rizz. Good job, man. Good meeting you, buddy.
It was great meeting you guys, too. Appreciate you having me on.
Enjoyed it. Until next time, this has been the Pozcast.